Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for watching the 802 Scoop right here, filmed from inside Scoop Studios, Main Street, Barre, Vermont. Today we have a couple guests. Of course, we have Ross Connolly and Mike Taglavia. Most people from 802 Scoop probably know Mike, but I wanted to bring Ross on. Ross is from Americans for Prosperity. Full disclosure, they did a Facebook ad for me, thanking me for the service for my service as a state rep, and I thought that it would be good to have him on and to tell us about Americans for Prosperity and what you guys do, your history, and of course I figured we'd have Mike Taglavia here because he also got a thank you from them as well. And so yeah, welcome to 802 Scoop there, Ross.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be back in Vermont and with two great votes in the legislature trying to make Vermont more affordable, which is our main mission here in Vermont with Americans for Prosperity is more reasonable policy to make Vermont more affordable and work for every Vermonter. So excited to be here.
Great. So question, we wanted you to come up here and just find out what is Americans for Prosperity. It's my understanding you've been around for quite a while, and I think you just barely started to interact with Vermont, correct?
Yeah, so AFP, we are the nation's largest grassroots organization. We're focused on bottom-up solutions, so empowering individuals in communities to make a difference in their hometown, in their home state, because that's where the best solutions come from. Often, what we see coming from Montpelier or from especially Washington, D.C., is these top-down solutions that work for some but leave most people behind. We have been around. I've been with AFP for 12 years now. It's hard to believe. I helped run our New Hampshire state chapter for many years. And that's the model we've always had, is a state chapter model, similar to other groups like the ACLU or something, where you have a permanent infrastructure in a state to focus on state policy. When I started in this role almost 3 years ago, it's part of what we call our 50-state strategy. So, we've often been in red states. We are a right-of-center group, but my argument for many years was if we aren't fighting in places, if we aren't trying to help the people in places that we naturally would view as not super aligned, or most groups just sort of write off, then we're always going to lose, and we're leaving those folks behind. So we started about 3 years ago our 50-state strategy. So I cover the 9 states in the Northeast that are non-chapter states, and then I have a counterpart on the West Coast that does the same thing. I cover about 50 million people, of which we weren't previously talking to. My counterpart is 55 million people. So you add that together, it's a good third of the country. And I will say we're one of the only groups doing this. You don't see it from party structures, because they'll just go to the battleground states. They go to the places where they see the math to be able to win. But we see the opportunity, the will, and the people, fighting for policies that are more moderate here, and that we can help amplify their voice and give them a voice in Montpelier to push back on some of these policies that are driving people out of the state of Vermont. So Vermont's been one of our key states in the Northeast. We see tons of opportunity here, and we're here to stay for the long term.
So I know that this last November there was a huge shift in the legislature in Vermont. Certainly, I know that I'm part of that shift. Mr. Taglavia is part of that shift. You know, and I know that it's hard still, just because it's still a majority that is not Republican. And I realize that you're not a partisan organization, correct?
Yeah, we're not a nonpartisan organization. We'd, thank Democrats if they did the same thing as you guys and voted for policies that lower costs. But unfortunately, we're still waiting on some of those to join.
And you're like an advocacy group for issues, not for politicians. What kind of issues are you guys focused on primarily in Vermont?
Our tried and true issues focus on economy, so taxes, regulations, energy policy. We get into, we've done some criminal justice work here. Healthcare policy is something we focused on here as well. We actually had a good win. It was a Democrat bill, I'll point out, that was excluding birthing centers, so midwife centers, from certificate of need rules, so that you can more easily open up a birthing center. We hope to make that reform across the board in healthcare in Vermont, but we kind of touch on all the pieces. What I look at is, what are the biggest issues that people are facing? And here in Vermont, it's wildly obvious that it is the cost of living, it's the cost of healthcare, the cost of energy that are driving people out of this state. To states like New Hampshire, where they don't have the same issues. And I think that's a shame. I think it's one of the most unique states, probably in my mind, the most beautiful state. And there's tons of opportunity here, but the politicians and these policies are not matching with the direction that Vermont should be going in. It's retracting instead of progressing.
So can we go back to that conversation about the birthing centers? Mm-hmm. You were working with, because it was a Democratic bill, and I vaguely remember, because I have a terrible memory, we actually had some significant, I think we passed a bill on
Yes,
birthing centers.
yes, we did.
Do you want to, is that the one that you're referring to?
Yeah, so there's, this thing we think is terrible. It's called Certificate of Need. Back in 1986, the federal government recommended to states to get rid of their Certificate of Need laws. And the main reason was there was a direct causation towards higher priced healthcare, because you have to go in front of this board made up of people in the industry largely, and you have to basically give a reason why you want to open a healthcare center, a new hospital, new MRI center, what have you. So you need permission to do that. In states, many states have gotten rid of these laws entirely, and you see it across the border in New Hampshire, where there's endless supply of healthcare centers, convenient MDs, urgent care facilities, emergency rooms, where you have your choice and it's a lower price. Now, the Vermont win, was an incremental win, but we still view it as a win nonetheless, because now more expectant mothers will be able to find more options over time for a lower cost than is currently in place.
So I know that Copley is closing down their birthing center. Are you expecting that we'll see some more birthing centers pop up?
Yeah, we every time we've got, even if it's a carve out like this is for midwives, birthing centers, we always see the same result, which is an increase in healthcare. Sometimes it takes time, but removing that regulatory barrier, that's what's holding people back from moving into a healthcare industry, opening up more options, because it's just too darn expensive to go through that process. A lot of times it's ripe with cronyism, where people don't want competition. So they don't want to allow more options, because that'll hurt their bottom line. But what we care about at AFP is patient care and the price of care. And this is removing certificate of need as part of what we call the personal option, which is the counter to socialized medicine, that if we open up, we make it easier to provide good care for a lower price, that's a better solution than high regulation, more government involvement.
You want to say something?
No, not with respect to that. I agree with what he said, but some of the when we get a chance to talk about some of the promotions that Americans for Prosperity did with respect to the last election, and when I first started seeing Americans for Prosperity and wondering, how do I get a hold of these guys to say, hey, I'm on board with you? So
we can go down that route. Go for it.
It was back in September and October, I guess, of last year, just before the election in November. I started seeing these big, I don't know, the mailers. I don't know what size they are, 9 by 7 or whatever. And most of them, they were coming addressed to my mother-in-law because they were aimed at the energy policy and Act 18, Clean Heat Standard.
Yay.
Imagine that. So that was my first go around and look, and then I went to right here in Barrie, an event, Young Republicans event, and that's where I first met Ross. And like you were talking about, I said, well, Ross, how do I get your endorsement? He said, sorry, we don't do that. We do policy. So I was kind of disappointed, but I understand, you wanted to do the message, and if you can get people from both sides, it's even better. And like you said, it's not always effective getting both sides, but I applaud you trying.
We'll always make the effort. We'll work across party lines, no matter what. Like you said, we care about the issues. So, if a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Progressive, doesn't matter what label you put on yourself. If you're willing to work with us on coming up with a solution that works and that lowers barriers, then we'll work with anybody. We kind of live the motto at our headquarters down near DC. We have a giant quote as soon as you walk in from Frederick Douglass that's, I will work with anybody to do good and nobody to do evil. And that's kind of our whole operating model is those words, and adapting that into how we do things. That campaign, that's probably still our main issue here in Vermont, is Act 18, the Global Warming Solutions Act, sort of, looping it all in together, is these policies don't make any sense. They're not practical. And they're directly harming people in this state. You talk to people.
Up the cost of living.
It's crazy.
I want to talk about the Global Warming Solutions Act, because I know that I believe I signed on to the repeal of it, and I think you did as well.
You signed on to my bill, which I was
and I
hoping
signed
we were
on
gonna
to
come
your
up
bill
to,
as well, and I want to talk about
518.
that one as well, because it was, and I also want to talk about clean heat, but let's talk quickly about the bill that caused both. Well, I think Mike got attacked by VPIRG as well. I know I got.
Yeah, I'm told I was. So
yes.
A friend of mine said they saw it who's on Facebook, said they saw it.
Yeah. So VPIRG,
Vermont Public Interest Research Group.
Thank you. Which is a really,
It's a great play on words.
Yeah, I'm very. I want to know where their money comes from, because I'm just anyway. They're pretty big here. I mean they're like very active.
Very active in Montpelier in the State House on a daily basis.
Yeah, and because of your Superfund bill, To repeal that. They came after anybody
number
that
of us.
touched it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone who signed on.
So, since it's your bill, Mike, do
Well,
you want
basically, it's very simple. What it does is it takes away, it repeals the Superfund, which takes away the money, which in this past budget that just got approved, it got reduced from 700,000 to 350,000, I believe, 300 or 350,000, that would go to this climate superfund, which basically is going into suing big oil, holding big oil responsible for the quote unquote harms. And the thing that bothers me most, I'm 61, okay? I know what it's like to grow up with inexpensive energy, inexpensive gas for your vehicle, inexpensive diesel for anybody's light truck or for trucking. We've seen the cost of shipping go up, mostly because of the cost of diesel. Diesel is easier to refine, but it's more money because of all the taxes, because of the war on oil. So if we're going to make this state and the rest of the country more affordable, we need to look at the list of pros versus cons when it comes to petroleum products and realize that this is really a non-starter. It's going to hurt people economically, mostly people in lower income and fixed income. Mm-hmm. And that's not what we want to do. We have an aging population in this state who are hurting the people who we don't want to hurt. And it's not going to, in the end, it's costing Vermont taxpayers money to go and do this. And right after the Superfund was enacted, we didn't even get a chance as a state. The Attorney General didn't even get a chance to file a lawsuit. We got taken to court preemptively by two different groups. One is Petroleum Institute of the U.S., I believe, and one other group preemptively started a suit against Vermont because of the Climate Superfund. So this is going to take up time in the Attorney General's office, and it's going to cost us money as taxpayers. It doesn't help.
And I'd say the biggest thing is it is going to do not a darn thing to reach the goals that they say it is. It's not going to lower, fossil fuel use.
It's not. I mean, there was a statistic that just came out. I've read it and heard it in more than one place. I forgot over how many years, but this push for us to use less petroleum products, it dropped by like 0.1% or 0.2%. Mm-hmm. So it's not working. It's not working.
Yeah.
Even though that the price of petroleum products has increased, and that was one of the goals of the Global Warming Solutions Act and the Clean Heat Standard, to drive up the cost to make us not use it.
I mean, Vermont it's the lowest GDP state in the country. Like, it's just not going to make a difference. That what will happen is, like, and we sort of predicted it. We were warning about this bill, when it was going through the legislature last year, and we said the immediate thing is you will get sued on this, and the second thing will be is no company will want to come to Vermont to build new infrastructure for energy projects. And that includes, things like, natural gas, which has resulted in the largest carbon reduction in human history.
Cleanest we got.
Is the use of natural gas. Our argument is it doesn't have to be A or B, like in energy policy. You can have a reasonable, we all want clean air. I'm a big outdoors person. I love hiking, I love camping. Everyone wants a clean environment and to keep Vermont as beautiful as possible. But we can't cut ourselves off at the knees.
I agree.
And say you have to suffer through the winter and be cold, and cold kills.
And suffer through blackouts and brownouts.
Exactly. It's moving towards disaster. It's regressing again instead of progressing. Mm-hmm. And that was what a lot of our mail on Act 18 said was, hey, there are innovations right now that have basically zero emissions that produce mass amounts of energy. Things like, and you're going to see New Hampshire do this. New York, I think, is building the first one. Small modular nuclear reactors.
I'm glad you brought that up.
You know, where it has zero waste essentially. They're very safe. They're much cheaper to build. So there are solutions that don't include us saying you have to sacrifice your entire quality of life to reach these arbitrary goals that the state has set.
I know that one of the things that was kind of a sticking point for me was we would be investing this money to, you know, basically have the Attorney General do something when there's other things that she could be doing. Like, I don't know, helping the auditor out, right? And
Helping
now,
the state's attorneys catch up on their backlog.
correct. Well, I mean, VT Digger just did an article on how Doug Hoffer had to sue the Attorney General's office.
We had to sue ourselves.
We sued ourselves because the Attorney General was not offering legal advice to Doug Hoffer. And of course, the Supreme Court of Vermont said, that's your job. You know, and I think that that's something that is extremely important for folks to know, is that, you know, because a part of me thinks let's sign on to the bill, you know, sign on to legislation, as long as we're not, I don't mind signing on to something if there's a possibility of getting something back when it comes to lawsuits, but we're signing on to that, and it feels more performative.
It's feel good stuff. It's not. It doesn't give you anything. There's no meat on the bone there.
And what it's doing is it's causing us to like lose track of other things that are really within the purview of the Attorney General, such as, you know, providing legal advice to our auditor. And I'm not, you know, we've had Hoffer in our committee before, and he's anti-TIF, and I'm pro-TIF. So, you know, it's definitely, it's kind of disappointing to see that the time is being wasted when there's other things that should be done.
It's just the priorities, again, like just putting things that should not be a priority above things that should. I mean, there is a massive backlog of cases in this state. Maybe focus there instead of, you know, trying to go after, you know, companies that, you know, largely are trying to provide heat and you know, security to, not to say they're, you know, all these companies are great, but they are providing a service to the people of Vermont that they need. Like, no matter what, we are not going to turn around tomorrow and be able to heat our homes with windmills and solar panels. It's just impractical.
Yeah.
Like, we have to have some in between. You know, we might be able to get there with battery technology and stuff, but we're not there right now.
Well, you know, and I like the idea of green energy. I really like the idea of nuclear energy. So I'm actually unfamiliar with this miniature
modular nuclear.
Can
The
you
thing
tell-
I like
what
about
is it?
it
Can
is,
you tell
and
me about it?
I don't know too much. It's fusion instead of fission.
No, it's still fission.
It is still fission. I
So
thought
it's
it was
basically how, like on our aircraft carriers or submarines, it's a small condensed nuclear reactor. That the big thing is you do not need a water source. So everybody that's seen Chernobyl on HBO, you know, that was a totally different thing. Also, the Soviet Union did not have safety protocols.
Thank you.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
for the record, you know, everybody likes to talk about that, you know, Chernobyl, but that's what you get under a socialist society.
Cut
they
corners.
cut corners. Exactly. They
Right,
cut corners.
not caring about the people. I mean,
They were expendable.
They
were expendable.
That Chernobyl situation should be this is what happens in a socialist country. Hashtag don't go there. Right?
And then with respect to
not nuclear.
with Fukushima, is that the nuclear plant in Japan
Yes.
after the okay.
Yep.
We don't need the water cooling, so it doesn't
Exactly.
need to be near the coast, so you don't have that risk.
Correct.
Yeah, it does not need water cooling. And the big thing is it uses spent nuclear rods. So it uses spent uranium, plutonium, whatever they're using at specific plants. I am not a nuclear scientist, obviously.
So dare I say we're recycling?
Yes. So you
okay.
take that waste that previously they've been keeping it in a mountain out west. It is a small amount, by the way. Like
Right.
from our old nuclear plants, it's still a very small amount compared to carbon or even wind, where you have to replace giant windmills.
Right.
So it's a small amount of waste, but now we can use that waste for these small reactors, and they use it basically to nothing. So it basically uses all the potential energy in these rods to basically zero. You do have to still have a waste system, but it's not
Talking
nearly
about
as
very
dangerous.
small quantities also.
And this is, I mean, I don't know how big these facilities are. They can't be like huge,
Warehouse,
right?
Yeah,
So
small.
we're talking smaller than some of our
You could
solar fields, right?
Yes,
Oh.
exactly. Here's my question.
A small fraction of a solar field.
We
Yeah.
already have Vermont Yankee is shut down, right?
Unfortunately.
But there already is the infrastructure for putting out the electricity. So if we were to take one of these modular nuclear plants and set it up there, because we could immediately or almost immediately connect to the infrastructure to send the electricity out to the households that need it. Start there, show how effective it can be, and then find a location somewhere else in the States. We could have two separate ones. And what about the possibility of Vermont having a situation where we could be a net electricity producer, where we could actually sell it, maybe back to the Canadians instead of buying hydroelectric power
Well,
from them?
I'll tell
Right.
you, I'm not a big fan of getting our energy from Canada.
If
Don't
we
don't
could-
get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that I don't want to have a good relationship with Canada.
No, I get what you said. Yeah.
My issue is I don't want a foreign entity to be able to say we're going to
Yeah.
double your rates or shut your electricity off, which is what happened a couple months ago with, I think it was Ford. The guy up there, he said he was going to shut the electricity
okay.
off to the United States, which not okay. And
Yeah.
and if folks don't know what it's like without electricity, just imagine. Well, people in Vermont know what it's like without
Sure.
electricity because we lose our electricity quite often. Imagine that being done to us for a long, extended period of time.
Especially in February when it's cold.
Right.
You lose your heat, you lose everything. Your well in a lot of cases. So yeah, these are the things that as Americans we have come to take for granted.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
That's one of the things, we've had it very good for a very long time.
So what's preventing the modular
The
nuclear?
fear of nuclear.
The big thing has been the federal government. So
Oh, okay.
up until President Trump came back into office, it was basically being stalled. So any nuclear development has to go through a federal department. It's traditionally very difficult. We have built very few new nuclear plants in the United States. But this is a U.S. technology. So they've been, when President Biden was in office, they were building them here in the United States. One of the big companies is GE, and then they would ship it to France. So they were all being built in France. France is the counter to the rest of Europe. They, instead of going all in on wind and solar, they're the only country that, one, isn't dependent on Russian gas or having rolling blackouts like Spain has because they went too far reliant on unreliable energy. France went full into nuclear. So they're building these these plants all over the place. They have lower costs of energy, obviously more reliable energy, but we want them built here. It seems like Governor Hochul in New York is looking to build the first one, from what I've seen. But we at our sister organization, AFP Foundation, last year did a study because with all the groups in New England, looking at all of ISO New England and making a model to predict based on the mandates that states have in place. That's something that we hadn't seen before. So based on their plans, what is going to happen? Currently, we found if it weren't for New Hampshire, who is the largest domestic exporter of energy in the region because of their nuclear plant, prices would be 4% higher across the region. So if it wasn't for them. And then looking to the next 10, 15, 20 years, energy rates will more than double if we continue down the path we're on. And you will have very frequent rolling blackouts. So we will increase the cost of energy and lower the reliability in the service that you're getting.
If I could add, we're talking about in this state, thank goodness the governor signed the executive order putting off the EV mandates for trucks and cars. If we have what Ross said with looking forward to the rolling blackouts and brownouts, how will people be traveling or be able to travel if there were to continue with these EV mandates for vehicles? We're talking about people being stranded in the most severe weather in the worst time of year. Take also the Global Warming Solutions Act, like what you said, with mandates. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with mandates. I think they should be goals. But with the modular nuclear, if we were to have one or two or whatever number of plants that we could supply the entire state within our borders of this state electricity, how much closer would we come to those goals because we were producing most, if not all, of our electricity from these modular nuclear plants instead of from burning oil or natural gas, which, by the way, is way cleaner than oil, and we've been deprived of it because the green energy folks wouldn't allow the pipeline to come further from Pennsylvania.
I think, and I might be wrong on this, but I do believe that Vermont's energy mainly comes from hydro dams.
Hydroelectric.
Canada.
If not all, it comes from hydro.
Because if you look at the largest exporter of energy in the region is Vermont. But I don't count that because it's not actually produced here. Right. It's just run through here. Oh, okay. And that was mostly because the North Country folks in New Hampshire, put up a big fight against, some of the power lines going through there. But you pointed out, just the logical fallacies of this entire thing. It doesn't take 2 seconds to think about, because this is currently happening in California. They have regressed. They're looking to reduce the amount of energy they produce, but then they're saying everyone needs an electric car. And, oh, by the way, now you can only charge your car between the hours of 2 a.m. and 3 p.m. or 3 a.m.
Because we need the electricity for what? Air conditioning and everything else.
So, we need a mindset. We have to push back against this mindset of, I view it as regressive, that you are looking at the future in a way that you say we have to become, less abundant. We need a mindset of abundance that, we have an opportunity in the United States over the next 10 years to really create an incredible future, whether it's artificial intelligence or a lot of these tech developments that are going to need massive amounts of energy. And if you as a state want to lead on that You have to invest in that future. You see Microsoft, Google, these companies are buying nuclear plants to power their data centers. Like, we have to have this mindset of we want more energy, we want to keep things clean, but we have the technology to do it at this point, to have that future where it's positive growth, a growth mindset, but it's also protecting the environment. You can have both.
What can the state of Vermont do to help facilitate this? I mean, help facilitate something like this. I mean, I was just checking in. The European Union says that the small nuclear reactors are the key to their net zero goals. Mm-hmm. So, what could Vermont do to encourage that instead of going to New York? And
I'd say immediately is what Mike said is get rid of the mandates and make them goals. Goals are fine. I think it'd be a valiant goal to look towards reducing carbon footprints and stuff. But a mandate means that you are legally obligated to reach these goals, these inflection points that may not make sense in reality, and that's what we're facing now.
I would say it's not a may not, they don't make sense in reality, because the Global Warming Solutions Act mandates mandate that we go back to 1990s levels. How do you do that? We have a deficit of housing in this state. How do you go and try to make the economy such that, and bring wages to a point where you bring in young people, you keep retirees here. We get 41,000 new homes over 5 years is what the goal is if we're going to get to a point where we want. And go back to 1990s levels. I guess that might be a possibility if we were to go to these modular nuclear, because it is basically a net zero. It is very clean energy when you look at it. But without going and, okay, how do we go? We have 518 and we pass 518. We repeal the Climate Super Fund. So we stop wasting money on that. And we stop telling big oil we don't like them when they've made my entire life a possibility. To me, it's pretty hypocritical to say, yeah, we should sue big oil when I've benefited greatly from petroleum products, relatively inexpensive petroleum products. And when you look at them, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Go to the hospital. If you have a family member whose life was saved, petroleum products had a part in that. It's in our everyday. Look at some of the stuff we're wearing right now. All the things in our homes, our carpets, everything. It's everywhere. So we can't say big oil bad and want to have all the conveniences that it affords us. It's just hypocritical to me. So 518, repeal Act 18, take the goals make them goals instead of mandates in Global Warming Solutions Act. And there was one more thing I got to talking and I forgot, but there was 4 things that we could turn the corner and start the prosperity. There are a number of things, like we were talking about in the beginning, that are going to make the GDP of Vermont turn around.
Yeah, and I think a big being more friendly to whether it's innovative companies or again, I love this state. It is so beautiful.
It is a beautiful
and
state.
And people want to live here, but they look at, like, if you want to start a business here, move your business here from, say, New Jersey, one of these states that people are fleeing from, they're not going to come here. They're going to go to New Hampshire because they have very low taxes. They directly want you to come here. Yeah. The New Hampshire governor, does these tours. They want you to go to New Hampshire and be a part of their community. and they create their whole government system. The biennial budget of New Hampshire is about the same as the annual budget in Vermont. They have, New Hampshire has, I hate to constantly focus on our neighbors to the east, but they have the fastest GDP growth in the entire region, one of the fastest in the country, huge net bound in migration, one of the highest quality of life in the world, and it's double per capita income. That wasn't because of anything special. It was just because about in the 90s, the two states took a totally different turn on the approach to governance. Vermont took the approach of saying government is the solution to most problems. New Hampshire said government is not the solution to most problems. We're going to get out of the way. And that we see the results. It's a great A/B test. It's right there for everybody to see.
We got a commenter asking, what should be done with the spent nuclear rods and cooling waters? It's going back to our previous conversation, and I know that, you know, there's going to be some byproduct to it, but I would just state that, you know, batteries and then of solar energy, all that also has byproducts as well.
You have to compare them all. You can't take them in a vacuum. You can't.
Right. I mean, even the windmills, right? You know, the turbines.
They're not.
They're
net
burying
zero
them
at all.
They're burying them and plus the birdies.
Yes.
Well, you guys don't have an ocean here, thankfully. 'Cause I saw them off the coast of Rhode Island over 4th of July weekend. They're going to fall apart at some point out there, which is concerning for me. I love, you know, fishing and
And they're
the
going to
ocean.
leak the lubricating oil, and they're going to contaminate the water.
They've had huge problems in Nantucket, but that's offshore. You know, again, I am not an expert in nuclear technology. I just, you know, am interested in it and do energy policy. But I think the best solution to the existing nuclear plants like Seabrook in New Hampshire, or you go down to Connecticut, they have a couple. We have built a couple new ones too. One in Georgia, I think, is the most recent, like, large-scale nuclear project. Those often aren't the best. We've actually, at AFP, fought those projects sometimes because they often result in cronyism because they're so expensive, billions of dollars, about a decade to get through the approval process. However, they have waste. They have those nuclear rods that has to go somewhere. I would say the best solution with today's technology is more small modular nuclear reactors that can then take that and use it to basically zero. Because right now it is still sort of a problem. All of the waste we've ever had from existing nuclear plants would fit on one football field. So from, you know, the 1950s when the first one opened to now, the waste would fit on about one football field.
Okay, the footprint of a football field, but how tall, how deep?
I think a couple meters tall. So
compare that to a landfill. That's nothing compared to a landfill.
Yeah.
Which is where, you know, I've seen some of these solar farms closing down. They're toxic materials. They end up burying them in like pits that they have to, you know, seal so that it doesn't leak into the soil. There's waste with everything. There's always going to be that problem. Right now, it's a bigger problem for nuclear because they have to store it. I think it's called Yucca Mountain, if I remember correctly, out in Nevada.
Right.
That they bury it in a mountain, a secure vault in a mountain. But if we can use that, you know, recycle that, I'm a big fan of recycling. You know, we should use the things we have until they're spent. But I'd say that's the best solution for the time being.
Sounds like we got a mission here, and we got Sam Douglas online watching us too.
Hey, Sam.
And I guess the three of us will have to work together to try to get some
If I'm not mistaken, I thought I read somewhere that there's some sort of salt brine that's used to cool the smaller modular.
Yeah, it
Nuclear.
uses a salt. Some people call them salt reactors.
Okay.
So I think that's the greatest thing because most people are very afraid of nuclear because of this. You have to cool them constantly. What happens if you can't cool them? Could it melt down? Not possible with these.
Yeah, they don't.
It's not possible.
Some sort of a mechanism that they shut down.
I'll point you to New Hampshire. Governor Sununu did a study, a commission to study the implementation of small modular reactors. The chair of their energy committee in the House, Michael Vose, his goal is to put one in every county and power the entire state that way, and then just export the rest of the energy. So, I think this is the present and the future until we reach, fusion, which everyone's been talking about for about 50 years, that we're 10 years away.
You brought up, I don't know why I never thought of this before, but I don't know how many people each of these reactors would be employed. How many, like if there's
You could power
one
a
in each
small
county.
city. You could power a small city with one.
But how many people, how many employees would it take to run this
I'm not
power
sure.
station?
not
That's
sure.
that's a very interesting question. I don't know why
Sorry,
I didn't think of that.
we just
I love
saw
talking
that
about
little
this
rabbit trail, and we're like, whoop, we're gonna go right down.
Well,
I mean, it was
I love
it was
it.
good
If you
information.
care about clean energy, you should be the biggest supporter of
Yeah.
nuclear
Yes.
in the world, and it's starting to change. Governor Healy in Massachusetts has tinkered with the idea of how do we reach our goals? Well, if you declare nuclear green energy, overnight you reach your goals. So, it's really a thing. Like we at AFP, we don't like picking winners and losers, period. We're not anti-solar, we're not anti-wind. We're pro-sensible policy that provides the lowest costs, the most reliable energy for the most amount of people.
I would put it a different way. Have all those options. The wind, solar, nuclear, hydroelectric. Let them compete. That's how you keep the cost down.
On
Let
an
them
even-
compete for the customer.
On an even playing field, a lot of people will say, that we just want oil or whatever at AFP. We're actually for removing subsidies for oil companies. We're for removing subsidies for any energy producer. It should be a level playing field where the companies and the products with the best costs and most reliability will win the day. But if you live in Nevada, solar sounds like a great idea. Not so much a great idea here. The largest solar farm in New England is in Maine. And if you took the total export of power from there daily, it would not power the John Hancock building in Boston for a single day.
Wow.
So that's a huge reliability problem.
Yeah. I also don't like the fact that it destroys our green fields.
I don't
but
see it as a
number
green
of
thing.
panels the number of panels you would need to cover the acreage in this state to make it viable is just astronomical. Like you
You
said,
have
with-
to cover all of New England in
Yeah.
solar panels, and I don't see that as being very friendly to the environment.
No.
Call me crazy.
I would agree with you. I would
Good
agree.
conversation. Good conversation. Any other legislation that you can think of that you guys were on top of this last session?
Housing, we're always looking at housing solutions. We really support, getting rid of Act 250 and just getting rid of the regulatory barriers that are holding developers back from building. Because it is crazy unaffordable to own a house here. The amount of people I've talked to that are multi-generation Vermonters that are like, I'm looking to move because they're just getting priced out, whether it's property taxes or housing costs. It's just ridiculous. We engaged on And there was a good incremental solution there that the bipartisan coalition did come up with. So we did support that, but we just think more should be done. The EV mandate thing is, thank God for Governor Scott who did that executive order, but it's only a year. In a year, there will still not be the existence of electric 18-wheel trucks. They don't exist. There's Tesla who tests them. They work in cities. I wouldn't want to be riding up one of these mountains driving one.
They won't work in this state, and you'll get half the work done.
Yeah, I call that
if you're lucky.
That policy the great New Hampshire auto dealers subsidy program, because that's exactly what it would result in. Either New Hampshire or Massachusetts, even New York, if they don't have the policy, that people will just go to neighboring states to buy trucks. And it's just the peak of impracticality is the EV mandate issue.
Yeah. All right. Well, I do want to, we're pushing up against an hour, and I don't want to
Time flies.
Yeah, it sure does. I want to say I appreciate you coming here.
I'll come back anytime. I love
really?
This is a lot of fun.
Tempt us with a good time. Because I think the conversation was really good. I enjoyed it. I hope folks that have been watching enjoyed it. Certainly, I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing to help bring affordability back to Vermont. And anytime you want to come on and promote something, certainly let us know. We're definitely here. What's the best way for folks to get involved?
Oh, so check out greenmountainprosperity.com is our landing page for all things Vermont. Keep an eye out. This week we're kicking off our big statewide tour. We're going to be doing town halls around the state throughout the summer, talking about these issues with representatives, hopefully at each of them. Just to hear from the community, talk about how these policies are affecting people. We have the big kickoff on Wednesday at 6 p.m. in Northfield at Beans Creamies. It's a cool car show. It's sort of more of a fun kickoff thing that we're doing out there. So come and get your maple creamy and have a good time at the car show. We'll be there. But otherwise, just you can follow us on Facebook, Americans for Prosperity Vermont. And check out everything that we're doing in the state. But the most important thing is get involved. It's not going to change on its own. We have to fight back against these policies and really provide that vision for it doesn't have to be, our way or the highway. There is a middle ground of moderation that could dramatically change the state and improve things for the better. So make your voice heard. Get involved.
You said greenmountainprosperity.com?
I believe that's what it is. I hope I got it right.
I'm not sure. But, yes, it sure is.
Okay.
It looks like it went there, so I do
That would've
apologize.
been embarrassing.
I'm going to drop that in the chat for folks to take a look at. And, so once again, thank you for coming. And Mike, obviously, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
And it's my
And big thank you to you guys for being the sponsor of that bill. Is a huge thing. You guys are doing excellent work in Montpelier. So I know it's not easy, basically volunteer work. So thank you for all you do for the people of Vermont.
And it looks like somebody from Americans for Prosperity is watching, and they dropped the link as well. So,
hi, Rachel.
so once again, thank you. And for folks because I'm assuming you're staying for Mike's show as well. Is that correct? Or-
Sure. Yeah.
That'd be
Okay.
great. That'd
So
be great.
that will mean that tomorrow morning is when Mike's show airs. You'll get to see Ross again, chatting with Mike, and I'll be out of the picture, and those two will get into lots of trouble, I'm sure. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and we hope to see you for folks that are watching live. Tonight we are planning on streaming live the discussion on the North End, and that's going to be down at the Moutois at 6 p.m. So if you want to join live and actually go down there, please go down there at the Moutois and discuss how we can envision the future of the North End after the devastation of the floods. With that, we hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you later.